Right, let's talk about a lost queen. Henry VIII had 6 wives, 2 divorced, 1 survived, and 2 were executed. Now, we're talking about wife number 5, Catherine Howard. She was young, she was beautiful, and Queen of England, and yet she left behind no tomb that we can visit. Her body and her grave quite literally vanished. This is the story of the lost tomb of Henry VIII's 5th wife, Catherine Howard. So let's set the stage. By the time Catherine Howard came into his life, Henry VIII was, well, not the dashing prince he'd once been. He was nearly 50, he was obese, he was plagued by leg ulcers and increasingly paranoid. Meanwhile, Catherine, she was not even 20 years of age, and the exact year of her birth is debated. Most historians put it around 1521. She was the daughter of Lord Edmund Howard, a younger son of the powerful Duke of Norfolk. So technically noble, but not exactly rolling in cash. And as historian David Starksey put it, she was a Howard, but a Howard without money. And because of the family's financial situation, Catherine spent much of her early life in the household of her step-grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. It was a kind of aristocratic finishing school, but with a distinct lack of supervision. Catherine shared a large dormitory chamber with other girls and young women, and according to multiple accounts, the place was not exactly virtuous after dark. Men often visited those rooms at night, and 2 of those men would define Catherine's fate. First, Henry Mannix, her music teacher. Their relationship was physical, though perhaps not fully sexual. And during investigations years later, Mannix admitted, "I knew her carnally before she was married to the king." Then came Frances Dereham, a secretary in the Duchess's household. Catherine and Dereham called each other husband and wife. They shared a private chamber, they exchanged gifts, and Dereham claimed that they'd made a binding pre-contract, basically a promise to marry, which under Tudor law was nearly as serious as marriage itself, and chronicler Edward Hall wrote, "She used the company of Francis Dereham as her husband, and made him believe that she would never marry another person." Then we fast forward to 1540. Catherine was brought to court as a lady-in-waiting to Henry VIII's 4th wife, Anne of Cleves, and that's where Henry noticed her, and by all accounts he was smitten. Imperial Ambassador Eustace Chapuis described Catherine as a very small woman of extraordinary beauty. And Henry moved fast. His marriage to Anne was annulled, for reasons ranging from her unpleasantness to claims that she wasn't a virgin, and on the 28th of July, 1540, Henry then married Catherine Howard. That was the same day that his long-serving minister, Thomas Cromwell, was executed. And because Henry's love life and political purges often shared a date in Tudor calendars. For a brief moment, Catherine Howard was Queen of England. Henry called her his rose without a thorn. He showered her with gifts, including jewels, fine clothes and land. But trouble was brewing. While Henry adored her, Catherine's past and possibly her present caught up with her. Enter Thomas Culpeper, one of Henry's gentlemen of the Privy Chamber. He was young, he was attractive, and reportedly very close to the Queen. And evidence suggests that Catherine began a secret affair with Culpeper. Lady Rochford, who had once served Anne Boleyn and was Anne Boleyn's sister-in-law, helped arrange private meetings between the Queen and Culpeper, sometimes late at night. In one confession it stated, "The Queen would not desist from sending Culpeper messages and tokens." When word of this leaked in 1541, it set off a full-blown scandal. Henry VIII was devastated, and some reports say he went openly. Others say that he flew into a violent rage. The Queen was arrested, so was Culpeper, Derham and Lady Rochford. And then, on the 13th of February, 1542, Catherine Howard was led to the scaffold on Tower Green. She was barely 21, and chronicler Edward Hall described her execution. She made the most godly and Christian end, confessing her faults with tears. She was then buried in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, the same chapel inside the Tower of London that houses the remains of Anne Boleyn, Lady Rochford and victims of Henry's wrath. So why can't we find Catherine's grave? Because in 1876, during Victorian renovations of the chapel, builders exhumed and reburied remains they found beneath the floor. They tried to initially identify the skeletons, but in many cases, bones were scattered, incomplete, or so decayed they couldn't be matched to individuals. The Victorians did remark some graves. Anne Boleyn's, for example, was given a plaque near the altar. But Catherine Howard's remains were either never positively identified or simply not found at all. And there's a grim possibility. You see, a persistent story suggests that after her execution, Henry VIII ordered Catherine's body to be treated with quicklime, or, as they often called it, lime, to speed up decomposition. This would have made her remains virtually unrecognisable when the Victorians opened the floor over 300 years later. Now, it's not definitively proven, but chroniclers and Victorian historians mention the rumour. In 1877, historian Doyne Bell wrote, "The remains of Queen Catherine Howard were sought in vain. It was whispered that her body had been destroyed with quicklime by order of the king." Now, it is possible that her bones dissolved so thoroughly that nothing remained to be found, meaning that the last traces of Henry's fifth queen simply vanished. So, when you visit the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, remember, under those stone slabs lie the victims of power and passion: Anne Boleyn, Lady Rochford, Thomas More, but not Catherine Howard, because the Queen Henry VIII once called his rose without a thorn has no tomb at all. Thank you for watching Off With Our Heads, and don't forget to like, subscribe and tell me in the comments, of all of Henry's 6 wives, whose story fascinates you the most? So thank you for watching, and once again, if you liked, please like, subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.